Okay, so I'm in the man cave here. You know, the girls were in here earlier, but now I got it back. Hold on one second. Okay, I have to give myself a little light. Uh, so yeah, it's great. I'm finally back in here. Be sure to join the Discord. It's going to be down in the description box below. It's a little trampoline they have. The metal is trying to stick through the material. That's not good because that's going to rip. It's already starting to rip. You guys don't even know what I'm talking about, but yeah, I probably should take that cover off, maybe? Oh. Oh. Anyway, you don't even know what I'm talking about, but make sure you join the Discord. It's going to be down in the description box below. You know, one of the comments to a video that says moving to Thurston County or Yakima County as a mixed couple, there was a lady who had sent me a email. I don't know. I don't know. What is it? Was it an email? I can't remember. That's how bad my memory is. I can't remember, but I do know that she sent me something, and she wanted to know. I do know that she has two boys. She's black, her husband's white, and she wanted to. They have a homestead because that was the one part that I definitely did remember. And they're wanting to do a homestead in either Thurston or Yakima counties, right? And they were wanting to know, if it would be a concern. Should it be a concern if they were to move there? And we've had a lot of people, and that's what I love about YouTube, is that there are people, when done correctly, there are people who will help answer the questions to things that I may not know or don't know, because there's a lot that I don't know, but that have lived there. They've lived in places and they can give you a better assessment, and I love that. That right there. There are certain things I love. Like, I like community, but I also like to stay away. Does that make sense? So I like community, but I don't like to be all in community. Does that make sense? I guess. And in this case, you had people who could tell you that there were certain things. There was one gentleman who gave a very detailed, thought out response, and I like that. I like that. He was able to talk about the temperature there and all of that. Like, some people have this illusion, though, that because we're so far north that it doesn't get hot here. It does. To me, it gets hot. Now, to someone who's from Arizona, like this lady and gentleman that's coming here, they may not think so, but to me, hot. So there's times when it does get hot here, and I hate it. Now, granted, it doesn't last for months and months on end like it does there, and it doesn't stay in the 90s and hundreds, days and days and days on end for weeks and weeks and months on end like it does in Arizona, but it gets hot enough to where I hate it. I don't like extreme heat, right? I just hate it. But it's not what this video is about. It's not about me and my temperature issues. It's about someone asked a question on that same video, right? It's in the comment section. And a lot of times on comments, I try to answer them. I try to go through and answer them, but there's sometimes when there's quite a few and I don't get around to it. I do read everything. I go through and try to read everything. That's just what I do. I feel like if you took the time out to actually write, the least I can do is go through and read it. I may not reply to everything like I used to back in the day, but I do read through all of them. And this one person, Bishop, I'm going to like your comment so that you know that at least I was thinking about it. But I'm going to do this video on this person here who says, do you think young people in their 20s should move to a low-cost area to save money or be willing to spend more money living in or near a big city? They said that they have a remote engineering job, so they could do either, right? So here's the thing. I think it depends on the person. Now, if I could rewrite my own history and do it all over again, I would have done things a little bit. Well, I would do a lot of things differently, honestly, and I would have low cost everything. Now, I did fairly well because When we're talking about my early 20s, I was in and out of, let's see, when I was 20, I was on my own since 2020, since I was 20 years old. So I moved out. There were places that I got that were cheap, and there were other places that were not cheap. And you know how it is in your 20s. Most people get a job that doesn't pay much. And so literally, you're paying, and at the time I was living in Bowling Green, Kentucky, which is not really a city, but the rent was enough to where I could afford it. You remember back in the days when you were young enough and you knew your bills were a certain amount and you knew how much you were going to get paid. You knew you were going to be able to pay it. But if you were to skip a day because you were too tired or hungover or whatever the case may be, that missing that day, it's like, oh no, might got the rent covered, but I don't know. That one day of missing work would be so disastrous. I remember those days. I had anxiety, right? I should have been smarter and moved further out, but I wanted to be where all the action was, a little, the action that Bowling Green has. And I didn't want to move to a small town because in Kentucky, everything is a small town. I mean, like, there's two options that are not small towns. Other than that, everything is like tiny or small. I didn't want to go from small to smallest. My mom lived in Smith Grove, Kentucky. It had 700 for the last, I don't know, since I've been alive. It's only been at 700 people, 740 people or so. Doesn't change, right? And I didn't want to stay in that. Like, that's so... Now I would, at this age, I could do it, maybe. But back then, it's like, there ain't nothing to do. Like, there's, I got to hear some stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I got to be able to drive and see something. But would I do that now? I would do it now. If I could go back and rewrite history and do it, I would do it as well as a young person. Because instead of throwing away all this money to be in the city and you don't need to, it doesn't make any sense. And so if you're a young professional, yeah, I mean, it would be fun to live in downtown Tacoma or downtown wherever, or in Seattle, or, not necessarily downtown, but in Seattle or Tacoma. It would be great. But on the same token, you're shelling out a crap ton of money every single month that you're never going to get. I mean, you're literally someone said this, you dig a hole, throw some money in it, pour some gas on it, and burn it. That's what you're doing. And so you're never going to get any return on that. So given that you have a really good job, I would bank all that money as much as I possibly could. Now, this is the other option. I tell people buy land because it's a smart decision. And the lady and gentleman that are moving from Arizona to Thurston County or Yakima County, they are doing this. Now, I don't know how big their homestead's going to be. And I'm not saying that you should have a homestead, but even buying a piece of land someplace, and if they don't have strict building codes, you could probably build your own little tiny house on the property. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot you can do. You can buy a small little RV. Doesn't have to be no Big Daddy. Not one of those big old buses where have you seen those people with those big old huge ones that do this type of thing? I'm not saying that. That would be bomb. But I'm saying, like, just a small little one that, you pull out the bed and it's a little tiny thing. You could do that with very little money. And you could put that on your own plot of land and save all of that money. And you're working remotely. That's a possibility, right? But yeah, I would say avoid the big city if you're young and you're wanting to definitely save money and you want to do big things. If you don't care and you just want to be where all the action is, and unfortunately that's where a lot of folks are, they think the way that I did when they're young, you're going to end up being in the big city. You're going to be spending a bunch of money. But I would say literally do everything but that. Because at the end of the day, the way I see it is buying a house is going to always be a much safer bet. Buying a plot of land, like what they're thinking about doing, It's going to always be a safer bet. That land's going nowhere, right? The apartment that you're renting out of is going to never be yours, and it may change hands 45 times. You see what I'm saying? So you're paying someone else's mortgage, and you're not really benefiting from it. You're just basically your tenant. With nothing wrong with it. I'm not trying to, demonize people who rent, because obviously there's a purpose and there's a place and there's a reason, and it's a needed reason. But if you want to have, and some people don't want to have a house, there's a hassle with that too. There's pros and cons, right? But me personally have to have a house with all of the animal farm animals we have and the number of kids we have. People would hate us if we lived in an apartment, right? So we have to have a house. And renting a house to me doesn't make sense for us. So it would have to be something that we own. So if it means that in your early part of your life, you basically sacrifice, you live in a tiny, tiny town where there's no stoplight, like in Smith Grove, Kentucky, there's no stoplight. Believe it or not. No stoplight in the city at all. Nothing. There's stop signs, no stoplight. There's a caution light. And that caution light, we look at it like, ooh. But if that's what you need to do, then I would definitely do it. I would use that money to travel, take vacations, go all over the place. You don't have a huge burden of taxes and mortgage and all of that stuff to worry about. So yeah, I would say live in a low-cost area, save the money, and then when you're able to, if you want to move to a big city, or if you want to move to Tacoma, I guess people consider Tacoma a big city. It depends. If you're from my hometown of Bowling Green, Kentucky, you're going to consider Tacoma a big city. There's even people in Albuquerque, which Albuquerque's bigger, who would probably look at Tacoma and say it's a big city. But to me, it's a medium. I think people from Louisville, which Louisville's bigger, and Lexington, Kentucky's bigger, but they would look at it and say it's a city only because of the way the city looks, right? Big old harbor and port, and you got the high rises and stuff and all that, but the light rail system, so it looks bigger than what it is. But yeah, I would save my money. I would definitely save my money. I don't think that it's a wise decision early on to invest all that into an apartment. It's better to save that money for yourself. You could possibly open up your own business later on. You could probably get your own house, which is going to really build your income. There's a video, and I don't know when it's going to go up. It may go up after this, before this, but I just put videos in and then they just launch, right? But I was talking about net wealth or net worth. And, having homes, someone asked the question, like, has homes in this area made people millionaires? And for a few, it has. Obviously, you have to count the value of your home versus how much you owe on it. But if you have had your house for a long time and the values have increased, or you bought low, which I always tell folks to buy low. Buy as low as you can. I mean, don't buy a shack with, you can see outside and there's no windows, but you can see outside and you can see the ground below you. And you have skunks that, sit up in bed with you. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is buy something that is reasonable, very reasonable, that that you can easily afford, and just wait. In this area, wait, because the value is going to go up. There's a person in the comments who talked about they had sold a house and now the house is more than double what it was, right? And that happens. So are there people here who are millionaires because of their home? Yeah. And so this is one of the reasons why I tell folks, save your money. Because as housing prices go up, not only just in King County and the typical areas, the stereotypical areas, but also in these other places. Kitsap County is not getting any relief. Prices are going up there. Pierce County, Thurston County, they're all going up. So, and very fast. So yeah, I would agree. Save your money, live as cheap as you possibly can, even though you can live much more expensive, live as cheap as you can, and continue to do if they will allow you to be a remote worker for as long as you want, I would take that deal all day long. And then I would just live in a city that is, decent size, not even necessarily Tacoma, decent size. There's stuff to do if you want to do it, and get a house there where you don't have to pay huge amounts of money, but you have a house that you can pay out in cash. That's a boss move. But anyhow, hope you enjoyed this video. Wanted to cover this one because I felt like this is probably one of those Ask HershNoeie questions. It's not really Ask HershNoeie. It was under an Ask HershNoeie, but it kind of is asking me a question. I felt like this was good enough to do a video on because that's something that I haven't really talked about. Like, I've talked about, like, if you're young, buy land and blah, 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 but I haven't really said, you know what, stay away from the big cities if you can, to continue to save more money, right? Some people can't do it, you know? But anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you join the Discord down in the description box below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.